Hello, and welcome to my channel. Try this as a series breaking down a certain game or playstyle of a game. If you enjoy this content, please consider liking the video to show support and subscribing so you don't miss out on future videos. Today we're going to be talking Commander and breaking down Giada, Font of Hope. The video is broken down into chapters which you can find in the description or in the timeline. I'll be briefly covering Giada, then breaking down some win conditions and how we'll get there. I'll talk about some mana base and card draw strategies. I'll discuss other synergistic cards in the deck and why I think they'll help. I'll cover some other synergy cards I cut from my example list, why they didn't fit my list but they might fit yours. And finally, I'll be moving on to some budget suggestions for the deck. Let's dive in. Giada is a 2/2 mono white angel that costs 1 white with flying and vigilance. Also, each other angel you control enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it for each angel you already control. She can tap to add 1 white mana, which can only be used to cast angel spells. As an angel tribal commander, Giada provides plenty of value. Not only is she a mana dork we can get out early, she anthems a tribe which is already pretty scary on its own. Like dragons, angels commonly have powerful abilities and all of them fly. By antheming the already threatening creatures, Giada can provide an aggressive board presence that can chunk down our opponents. Our main strategy is to go wide and tall with our angels and beat down our opponents. Angels have plenty of life gain to keep us alive, and all have flying to get around everyone's creatures. With Giada's scaling buff, we should be able to buff our creatures substantially to beat everyone down. It's pretty straightforward, and with Giada, pretty reliable. I'm running one alternate win condition with Angel of Destiny. As gaining life is easy and we only have to attack our opponent instead of dealing combat damage to trigger this effect, this should be a reliable way to remove players from the game. Mono white is notorious for having poor ramp and card draw, but remember, if colorless can do it, so can you. We can add any number of mana rocks to our deck to get the ramp we need. As a monocolored deck, having colorless mana rocks shouldn't hurt our mana base too much. Starting off, I'm running my usual auto includes in Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, and Thematic Compass. Thematic Compass can ensure we hit our land drops if we're getting mana screwed, and flips into a strictly better Maze of It. Wayfarer's Bauble and Solemn Simulacrum can help us tutor out some extra basics to field. Likewise, Land Tax and Myriad Landscape will also pull some basics for us. Though Land Tax puts them in the hand instead of field, it still ensures land drops and thins out our deck. Dowsing Dagger, Mind Stone, and Sword of Hearth and Home will continue to ramp us. The dagger flips into a land that taps for 3 mana, and with flying it should be easy to flip. The sword gets us basics while also flickering our less buffed angels to increase their power. We're running several cost reduction cards to help our deck. Herald's Horn and Urza's Incubator will reduce our angels' casting cost, while the Horn also gives us some potential card advantage. Herald of War and Starnheim Aspirant will also further reduce our angels' casting cost. The Herald synergizes with Giada as it already enters with +1/+1 counters while she's on the field, giving us value right away. Pearl Medallion and the Immortal Sun will give us some blanket cost reduction. The Immortal Sun will also buff our angels and provide additional card draw. Shutting down Planeswalkers is a nice bonus as we're not running any in this deck. Finally, we have Smothering Tide to tax our opponent's draws and get treasures. Mask of Memory, Tome of Legends, and Vanquisher's Banner will all provide us with reliable card draw. With almost all of our creatures having flying, the Mask should be able to reliably get in the damage trigger. With our commander having Vigilance, we can get in for the attack trigger on the Tome to ensure a card draw later, while still being able to use her as a mana dork for angels in the second main phase. The banner will work on all but 3 of our creatures, and it also gives our angels a small anthem. Court of Grace, Esper Sentinel, and the previously mentioned Immortal Sun will get us some card draw throughout the game. The Monarch the Court provides should be fairly easy to protect or get back, as most of our creatures fly, and quite a few including our commander have Vigilance. If we retain the Monarch, it will also make more angels for us to keep scaling Giada's ability. Esper Sentinel is a reliable mono white draw card. Our angels will probably be a bigger threat to our opponents, so outside board wipes, I think it's unlikely to get targeted by removal effects. I'm also running War Room and Bonder's Enclave as 2 lands that can draw cards for us. War Room's ability won't hurt much in a mono white deck, and between our strong angels and Giada's ability, we should have plenty of creatures who are powerful enough to activate the Enclave's ability. We need to protect our angels. They are scary and expensive, and we want to make sure they survive. We have Lightning Greaves and Swiftfoot Boots to get them protection keywords and haste. I'm also running Flawless Maneuver, Rebuff the Wicked, and Teferi's Protection to protect our board state. Rebuff the Wicked can only protect 1 permanent, but it's an insurance policy that most opponents won't assume you have. Counterspells in white aren't unheard of, but they're pretty rare to see in Commander. I'm running Avacyn Angel of Hope and Sephara Sky's Blade to give our creatures indestructible. Sephara should be easy to get out considering all the flyers we have in the deck. If none of our protection strategies work, then Emiria Shepherd, Rhea Dawnbringer, and Emiria the Skyruin are 3 cards that can recur our creatures back to the battlefield. I'm also running Bruna as some added recursion and her better half Gisela to make Brizella. Good luck with melding these 2 cards. Normally they get targeted pretty fast, but when it resolves it's a pesky creature to have. I'm running Crib Swap as one of my removal spells. Normally I don't cover targeted removal and board wipes in my deck tick videos as they're all pretty generic in every deck. However, this one synergizes with our commander. As an instant speed spell with Changeling, we can actually use Giada's mana production to cast it. For added angel production, I'm running Valkyrie Harbinger, Resplendent Angel, and Angelic Accord. As I mentioned, there are a ton of ways to gain life with Angel Tribal, and we shouldn't struggle to trigger any of these effects. To help them out, I'm also running Parhelion 2, Luminarch's Ascension, and the previously mentioned Court of Grace. I've been trying to find Parhelion 2 a home for years, and I think this is the perfect commander for it. With just Giada out and these 2 tokens seeing each other enter, Parhelion makes 2 6/6 flyers with Vigilance that are also attacking. I think this vehicle is awesome, and I'm so happy with the value it provides in this deck. And speaking of value, Luminarch's Ascension just carries you with Giada. I won a game testing this deck with just these 2 cards and Austere Command. Getting Luminarch online just scales out of control with each angel you produce. I won't cover every life gain card in this deck, but some heavy hitters are Righteous Valkyrie, Lyra Dawnbringer, and Archangel of Thune. The Valkyrie's ETB effect will likely trigger all our previously mentioned token effects, and Lyra will gain us a ton of life as our angels continue to scale with our board state. Finally, Archangel of Thune will just buff our whole board with all of our life gain effects. To wrap up our high synergy cards, we have Herald of the Host and Platinum Angel. The Herald's Myriad ability synergizes with the Giada's scaling ability. Though the angels don't stick around, they do see each other enter and can be a huge threat in the early game when we're still against every opponent. Platinum Angel just keeps us alive and stops our opponent from winning the game to stall until we can get in a position to win ourselves. The cutting room floor is where I discuss some cards around or over $10 that don't fit the budget section, and I also cut from my deck for various reasons. Though they didn't fit in my list, they might fit in yours. Starting out, I have some equipment that could be really useful in any Giada list. Blade of Selves and Helm of the Host are 2 that play into Giada's scaling ability. Like the Herald I mentioned, the Blade's clones will all see each other enter. This gives us massive versions of any of the powerful angels we have. Likewise, the Helm will also clone our powerful angels, which will stick around. We can even copy our legendary ones for redundancy against removal or just added benefit. Commander's Plate and Darksteel Plate are 2 equipment cards with effective protection effects. Commander's Plate will probably make most of our angels unblockable to most of our opponents. However, since they already have flying, I think the protection is redundant and mostly will just be useful against removal, which white is the best at to begin with. I cut all these equipment cards because I wanted to save some slots for ramp and card draw. The Book of Exalted Deeds and Sarah the Benevolent are 2 cards that can create angels for us and also protect us from losing the game. The emblem Sarah provides I don't think is really needed in this deck. With all the life gain we have, I think it's unlikely we'll lose the game to effects this protects us from. We're probably more likely going to lose the commander damage or combo decks. With some good threat assessment, our powerful flyers can beat down opponents who threaten us in this way anyway. The book makes sense as it synergizes with the tribe. Honestly, it is at the top of my list to include in this deck. However, I cut it for the same reason as the equipment. Card draw and ramp are needed to push our deck to victory, and I think adding the prevention effect like this to the deck isn't worth it. Alongside the book and the next card to squeeze into the list is the Ozolith. With all the counters Giada provides, I think that is a solid argument to run it in this deck. In running Giada, I always felt like a threat on the table without this card, so like all the previous cards I cut it in favor of additional ramp and card draw effects. I think it would be safe to cut one of the tribe reduction cards like Starnheim Aspirant for either the book or the Ozolith. The deck has a pretty consistent mana base in my test games, but let me know what you think in the comments below. Finally, to wrap it up is Heliod Suncrowned. Heliod synergizes with all the life gain effects we have, and he can help ensure that we get the life needed for those token production effects mentioned earlier in the video. I cut him because I wasn't really struggling to trigger those effects, and I was getting so much life with the angels alone, his ability didn't feel needed. The additional +1/+1 counters he provides will be missed, but the angels are already a heavy threat to our opponents, and Giada does a pretty good job buffing them without him. Strixhaven Stadium is a budget alternate win condition that also helps our mana base. With our angels all having flying, it should be easy to trigger this effect and remove our opponents from the game. Along with it is Oketra's Monument and Marble Diamond, which could easily replace some of our more expensive cost reduction cards like Pearl Medallion or Immortal Sun. The Monument can also generate some extra creatures for us as blockers while the angels go in for the damage. Birthing Bogs and Maskwood Nexus can generate blockers at instant speed. Also, Moon Silver Spear can generate flyers on attack. Most of our creatures are angels, so Masqua's other effect isn't really helpful here, but its token generation is welcome. Rogue's Gloves can give us some additional card draw, as we'll likely get through with our flyers. Also, we can dump some extra mana into Kindred Boon to help us protect our board state. If you're looking for budget lands or mana rocks for your deck, I would recommend checking out managathering.com. Unfortunately, it doesn't break down the prices for you, but it has a comprehensive list of all lands and rocks released for Magic the Gathering. To check out the prices, just click on any image of any card on the page and it will take you to a TCG player listing of the card. It is an extremely helpful resource to find utility or budget alternatives for expensive dual and fetch lands. In building mana bases for your deck, it is always worth checking out. I didn't cover every card in the deck or every suggestion I have for Giada, so if you'd like to see the rest, check out the deck list in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider clicking the like button and subscribing to the channel. Comment below on cards you think synergize well with this commander, and if you have any suggestions for commanders to build in the future. Thank you so much for watching, good luck, and have fun.